what do we have to gain from provoking the kind of reaction that took place? There's absolutely nothing that Thailand or the Thai people gain from provoking such a reaction.
But I think people would debate that, because not very far from where we're sitting, you have a group of protesters sitting in,
yes,
calling for action on this particular issue,
yes,
threatening to oust the government,
yes,
threatening to take over landmarks in Bangkok, which
yes,
they have a history of doing in the past.
yes.
And then only a matter of a couple of days after those threats were made, fighting breaks out on the border. I think cynics would say you do have something to gain, and that is to appease them.
Have they been appeased?
Well,
the answer is no, and we would have had no reason to expect that any action on the border would have led to any appeasement of this minority group at all. So the government has been steadfast in its position throughout the protests that we are in no business of provoking into live action the way that took place. And the Prime Minister has been very firm on this. Why
then is the government going to ask UNESCO to delist the temple off the World Heritage Register?
Well, we believe that the initial listing was very problematic in that we always felt that our rights and role with regards to how that site is managed should be respected, and it's ratcheted up the level of tension between the two peoples in a way that I think the World Heritage Organization was insensitive to, and I think it would diffuse a lot of that tension if they rethought the issue.
You say that there's no political advantage for you in what's happened. With an election ahead fairly soon, though, some would argue that this whips up a nationalistic fervour among those who are more likely to support the Democrat Party, therefore giving you some advantage leading into an election period.
I think, if anything, the party has been criticised for not being nationalistic enough.
But therefore, to appear more nationalistic would be good for you.
But we're not doing that. There's no saber rattling on our part. And I think it's quite clear that there has been no victory cry on the part of the Thai government. We've moved as quickly as possible and consistently so during the 2 or 3 days of fighting that did break out to try to bring the fighting to a halt.
Your government has implemented a new security law in relation to political rallies for the next couple of weeks. What are you trying to prevent by doing that? What's that aimed to achieve?
I just think that we need everybody to respect each other's rights. We are often criticized over the past 2 years of being too lenient on protesters. They block traffic for weeks and sometimes months on end. There are sporadic violent incidents as part of the protests that take place. But we've learned that tolerance is key, and we intend to retain that policy of patience and tolerance as much as it's possible. But we also need to make sure that the rights of those not in the protest, and frankly that's always a majority, is respected, and that's what it's all about. We definitely have no intent of using force or violence to disperse what has hitherto so far, quite frankly, been fairly rude, but certainly peaceful gathering.
All of these things, I guess, are taken into account by politicians when they're planning things like elections. Prime Minister said, even today, I think, that he will hold an election in the first half of the year.
Right.
Do you think that's guaranteed?
Guarantee in politics doesn't quite go together. Well, we need to have an election by January next year, meaning the House needs to be dissolved by the deadline of December. That's guaranteed. Anything else in between is a decision that is made solely by the Prime Minister. We have our major holidays in the middle of April, the Water Festival. All Australians welcome. But the issue, therefore, is we could either go before the holidays or immediately after. There's some, frankly speaking, some political rationale for us going around then, because typically election would take place something like 45 days post the dissolution of Parliament. That would mean that the anniversary of the disbursement of the red shirts on the 19th of May is avoided, simply because it would fall in between a period when there is only a caretaker government and everybody is busy with the election campaign, which I think is probably good for the country.
Do you think you can win an election, given that you're now opposed by both yellow and red shirts?
Of course. We've always contended, and I believe it's even more true today, that the majority of Thais wear no colours at all. And I think the election will prove that.
Minister, thank you very much.
My pleasure.